And I want to begin by thanking everybody who's contributed to this discussion. I sat and took careful note of the points that the 24 different speakers have made. And I want to open up by thanking members from the government benches and elsewhere that have voiced support for this piece of legislation and recognise the important role that it does play in supporting public services within our country and funding our local authorities. I appreciate their support on this bill and given their support, I want to spend much of my time here this evening dealing with the different critiques that have been made of this piece of legislation and of local property tax. And I think, Ceann Comhairle, there were 6 in total, summing up the main areas of criticism. First, that the charges in the LPT bill are unaffordable. Secondly, there's not enough power with local authorities. Third, that local authorities don't have enough money. Fourth, that the bill isn't progressive. Fifth, criticism of how local authorities are funded, particularly with regard to the Equalisation Fund. And then sixth and finally, criticism of the role of investment funds and private capital. And I want to begin with the third point regarding criticism that local authorities do not have enough funding. And I'm very conscious as I make this point, Ceann Comhairle, that there is a demonstration, a protest taking place outside our door here this evening. There are members of the opposition parties going out to address that protest, calling for more to be done on funding. On one hand, we're saying that local authorities need more money. We're saying more money needs to be spent on housing. But then secondly, you have the very same speakers who are making that charge arguing that the local property tax should be abolished. And I would just put it to the House here this evening that it's difficult to do both. You can't on one hand argue that local authorities should get more money and at the same time argue that the local property tax that helps fund local authorities should be abolished at the same time. Now, I know the argument will then be made, well, we're collecting taxes in other areas, but those taxes are being spent. They're being spent on public services as it is. So you can't double count it. You can't say, well, we want to get rid of local property tax and that can be funded from other taxes that we are collecting, when those other taxes that we are collecting are already funding public services that in many cases the opposition say there needs to be more public services out of those taxes. So I would just put it to the House here this evening that there is a real case of wanting more of something, and we all want more houses, we all want more services to be coming out of our local authorities. But on the other hand, saying we want to abolish a tax that helps pay for it, I don't think it's credible. I think the country have already seen through it. And when we're facing so many challenges within our society at the moment and the need to fund public services better, it does not stand up to scrutiny. Secondly, the idea that the local property tax is unaffordable for many and it's an unfair charge. And Ceann Comhairle, let me acknowledge, as I've done on many other occasions, the impact that inflation is having, the impact that the cost of living difficulties in recent years have had on so many and continue to have here this evening. But at each point when the re-evaluation of the local property tax has taken place, real efforts have been made to ensure that as we ask people to pay more, and as we ask them to pay more with regard to their homes, which is always a sensitive point, we have made great efforts to try to ensure that as we are asking those to pay more, the additional charge is affordable and is below the rate at which the value of homes have gone up. And this piece of legislation continues with this approach. We have widened the bands, we have cut the core rate of LPT to ensure that the vast majority of homeowners will still be inside the same local property tax bill that they are, bands that they were in the past. And while that does mean that even if the band that they're in is unchanged, that they will be asked to pay a higher local property tax charge, by widening the band and by reducing the rate, the government have made great efforts to try to help ensure that the additional charge of the local property tax due to this bill being passed, I hope by the House, that it is one that will be affordable for as many people as possible. Thirdly, we've heard the criticism that there's not enough power with local authorities. And I accept we have to make more decisions and look at how we can make local authorities even more autonomous and powerful. And my colleague, the Minister for Housing and Local Government, Minister Brown, is looking at issues in relation to this and conducting a review. But there are few things that will contribute more to the underdevelopment of local authority in the time ahead than abolishing the tax that local councillors currently have a say in how some of it is spent. One of the reasons we've had to make a decision in terms of asking the House and the Oireachtas to consider this bill quicker is so that we can fit in with the needs of local authorities, fit in with the needs that they have from a public consultation point of view, so that their views can be considered regarding how the local property tax be spent. So on one hand, I've heard calls from many saying local authorities need more power, and then the tax that gives them more power than many other taxes that this House considers and legislates for. Those that want local authorities to have more power, they're also against this tax. Again, Ceann Comhairle, I look forward to debating that particular inconsistency at later stages of this bill. Fourthly, the idea that it is not progressive, and in particular the point that is made is that even if it does take account of the value of a home, it doesn't take account of the income associated with that home. And I understand that point, and I accept that it is a really important one. But it is the reason why we do have waivers in place. It's the further reason why in this legislation we've increased the income thresholds by which some can access waivers, because we appreciate that particularly for those who are on low income, this can be a very difficult tax to pay. But the value of a home and the value of the home when we consider it when this tax is revalued, is a very credible effort from the government to look at how we can ensure the value of the local property tax relates to the income that somebody may have. We do know at times that can break down because, as some deputies have said, the value of a property does not correlate to your income, but that, on the other hand, is the reason why we have the waivers in place. Fifthly, I heard criticism in relation to the operation of the tax, and in particular the operation and the maintenance of the equalisation fund. Just want to make the point again that every euro that is collected in this tax goes back to the payment of public services, either at a local level or at a national level. And while I have heard some criticism in relation to the operation of the equalisation fund, and local authorities should be able to keep more of the money that is collected at a local level for local use, I heard that point be made by many, it's still important to emphasise to the Dáil that all of the local property tax that is collected is used to fund public services either at a local or a national level. And then finally, I heard the criticism again in relation to investment funds, the so-called vulture funds. For those who make that charge, and it's a debate I've participated in over many years, they appear to suggest that there's no role, or there shouldn't be a role, for private capital in the funding of new homes within our country. And we talk about private capital, all we are talking about is the savings that are held in other parts of the world, and those savings that are held in other parts of the world playing a role in delivering more homes within our country. So, Ceann Comhairle, they are some of the key points that have emerged from, as I said, the 24 different contributions that we've heard over the last number of hours in regard to this piece of legislation. I believe no tax is perfect. There are always drawbacks and criticisms of any tax, but this tax overall does play an important role in the funding of local government within our country, an important role in the delivery of important services and infrastructure, and the government continues to be very conscious of the challenges of the cost of living and affordability, but with the changes that we have made, aim to recognise the challenges that many are facing. And I obviously put this bill here to the House this evening.
Thank you. And